every town, I believe. Why?
I think that the problem we have at the moment is many grammar schools, because they're just in certain areas, they become a target for parents, obviously, and the fact that there's pressure on places just increases the level of competition. I think if there was a fairer distribution, I'm not advocating, by the way, going back to a full grammar school system. I don't think that's feasible, but I do think giving just as I think the head teacher says, it should not be a social elite, and I agree with that. There should be an academic elitism. Yes, I'm not against that, but I do think we need a fairer spread across the country. I noted that the Labour Party politician didn't want to see that, but I think that would be a better option. And then, you could a lot of the entry procedures that I'm in favour of. There's obviously more inclusiveness, making sure that children from pupil premium backgrounds or socially disadvantaged backgrounds are helped.
Dr. Curran, though, that was the whole point of Branwyn Jeffrey's report, to say that a lot of grammar schools are not managing to do that at all. They're not seeing that inclusivity that they're supposed to aim for. I mean, how can you justify selective education on the state anyway? If the taxpayer's paying, surely we should be aiming for high quality education for all children.
I agree with that, but don't forget that the comprehensive system is not a non-selective system. It's selection by wealth. If you can move to a very wealthy area with a nice leafy suburb comprehensive, you've effectively put in place a very well-positioned school, and that is true of many comprehensives. So I mean, I myself have worked in, and I won't say which one, a comprehensive that was full of children who were from middle and upper class backgrounds, and coming from very wealthy homes. And I also worked in a school in a poorer area where there were many, many challenges in that school, and it was harder and difficult for teachers, and there were many social problems. So the idea that there is no such thing as non-selectivity in comprehensive education is complete nonsense. It's highly selective. In fact, it's more selective than grammar schools, in my view. So I think.
So how do you ensure then that grammar schools sort of serve the purpose that they were set up for, to offer an extra opportunity, if you like, to a child based on their ability, when some families just can afford and do know how to access tutoring, which means their children have an advantage when they sit the exam?
Yeah, I understand, tuition can be a problem, but tuition is more of a problem when you've got a real pressure on places. I mean, for instance, in Northern Ireland, there are a lot of grammar schools, about 80 grammar schools in Northern Ireland, and there is less pressure to tutor simply because there are just many more places available, and the way into the grammar school is an easier pathway. So I think tuition tends to grow as a result of pressure, and the pressure in the system right now is almost at bursting point. The fact that so many parents want grammar schools is something that should be taken into account by politicians as well. The other thing that I could throw into the mix here as well is that we're not the only country that has grammar schools. Germany does, and Germany has gymnasia, and what they do is, at around a slightly later age, at 13, they divide children on one pathway or another. They either go down the academic route, about 30% do that, and the other 70% do vocational and technical, and it's not looked down upon in Germany. And of course, if they can move from one to the other, if that choice or that decision is not correct, it works. And one of the things that we have problems with here is an overvaluing of just the academics, so that everybody thinks these people are better than other people. They're not, they're just different. And I think we need to recognise that children from poorer backgrounds should be given the same academic opportunities as children from wealthier backgrounds. That's my view. And I think we have to think about those highly able children academically and give them chances in our country. Otherwise, we're going to have a more socially divided country than we have at the moment. I mean, it's interesting that in the past, I mean, there are people who've been to grammar school, and they're well-known people. John Humphreys, for instance, who's a former BBC presenter, Sting, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, all of these people came from grammar school, and they weren't from very, very salubrious and well-off backgrounds. And I think we need to recognise that these pathways need to be there.
Dr. Stephen Curran, good to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Very much indeed. Bye-bye.